I read this very interesting technique in the book Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, and he was explaining a technique that Jerry Seinfield used to help him develop his skill as a comedian. And what he did is he simply bought one of those big calendars that you can put on your wall that you can see the entire year, and every day that Jerry Seinfield practiced or did whatever work he needed to do to help him develop his skill as a comedian, to become successful as a comedian, he would put an X on that day. And the whole idea is to create a whole chain of X's and to not break the chain. So every day that he practiced, every day that he did the work, he put an X. And if he didn't do the work, he didn't practice that day, he wouldn't put an X, and he would notice that he's breaking the chain. I thought that was a very, very interesting way to help you be consistent with not only performing the actions that you need to perform to help you accomplish goals, but to help you apply the law of attraction, any kind of manifestation method that you apply. If you were to apply, put an X on that day and try not to break the chain, because it's about vibrational alignment, vibrational frequency, and consistency, consistent vibrational alignment. So this technique can help you with that. So if you say like you do your law of attraction technique in the morning, after you finish with your vibrational alignment, you feel as if you reach that feeling that you already have, whatever it is that you want, and you reach your vibrational frequency and you reach that alignment, you can put an X for that day, and then the next day another X. But if you were to skip a day, you will see it on your calendar, and it will motivate you to not break the chain again and to continue on putting that X, continue on with your vibrational alignment every single day, your law of attraction technique, whether it's affirmations, visualizations, whatever technique you prefer, whatever gets you to change your vibrational frequency. That's when you know that it's working, when you feel better, especially when you feel enthusiasm. And so this technique is very effective for that. So if there are things that you do know that you need to do to help you accomplish goals and manifest desires, no matter how small it may be, put an X for that day. And this is reminding me also of a book that I read a while ago called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And the main things that I learned from that book is that any little small step, any little small actions that you perform consistently, it will accumulate and it will tip over to a manifestation. And he gave a lot of different examples in the book, but the one that stood out the most for me was when he was explaining how New York City used to have a worse graffiti problem. And once, I believe it was Giuliani, Mayor Giuliani, once he became mayor, he changed things around and they cleaned up a lot of the graffiti, and that tipped over to the crime rate in New York City. So that's an example that when you're consistent with anything, eventually it will tip over to something else too. It will affect other areas in your life as well. So if you're not seeing any kind of manifestations yet, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. And this technique can help you with that discouragement, or not get discouraged anymore, because you're going to see a chain of X's, a chain of X's, a chain of X's, and eventually you will tip over. Just remember the tipping point, that those small little actions are going to accumulate. Just think of it as an accumulation of vibration, and that you're going to tip over to the manifestation of your desires. So if you were to feel discouraged, just look at your calendar and you'll see the evidence right there on the wall that you've been applying the law of attraction day in and day out. You've been doing what you need to be doing day in and day out. The X's are the proof of that. And be accountable. If you didn't do what you needed to do that day, if you didn't apply a manifestation technique or meditate or whatever, then don't put an X, and let that be a reminder that you're starting to break the chain. So I thought that was a very, very effective way to help you with any kind of discouragement, or you need help with being consistent, with performing whatever actions you can take, and to help you apply the law of attraction consistently. Put an X on that calendar. It's very simple. And you don't. The author of the book didn't necessarily use a calendar on the wall. He actually used his own little notebook and wrote down the date of each week and puts the X. He actually has a picture of it here. He just used a notebook, and he just put X's on it. And I believe he circled the days that he did not put an X on it so it can stand out more. So try this technique if you need help with consistently with applying the law of attraction every day. If you need help with being accountable, of doing whatever it is that you need to do every day, that you know that you need to do every day, try this technique. It's so simple. Just simply put an X and try to create that chain, and try not to break that chain of X's. And remember, don't get discouraged, because it will tip over to a manifestation. Eventually it will.